Disclaimer: I doesn't claim any of the arts. All the picture shown belongs to the respective artist and company. If you are original owner and want me to remove the video, I will do it immediately. Just send me an email to inform me. And if you liked my content, please subscribe to the channel. Chapter begins and we see that the Imperial Guard turned around super fast and stared at the paladin as he slowly got back on his feet. Something fell from the Imperial Guard's back, and he grabbed it quickly. We could see it was an axe that he was now holding up, ready to use. Luka watched from a distance, saying that the Imperial Guard group itself was like a weapon used by the Empire because of their special full-body suit called Legion. Meanwhile, the Holy Knight could use special powers. The paladin pulled his weapon back, and then the two weapons crashed into each other really hard. Lucas just stood there, wondering which person would win the fight. As soon as their weapons touched, there was a huge wave of energy that spread out, and lots of bright sparks flew everywhere. They got really close to each other's faces, and neither person would move back even a little bit. They both realized they needed to try even harder. All you could hear in the distance was the sound of their weapons hitting each other. The Imperial Guard turned on all the boosters he had, and right away the fight became so fast that you couldn't see it with your eyes anymore. All that was left was lines showing where they were moving as they fought all around each other. Then there was a big explosion, and after that they were both far apart from each other. It seemed like the Imperial Guard was winning because the paladin had to keep blocking attacks. Lucas mentioned that the fighters were so fast that he was struggling to even watch what's going on, and followed up that this was quite a battle from someone fighting in the Imperial Guard. Lucas then started begging, saying that the Imperial Guard had to be the winner of this fight. Then you could see the Imperial Guard's axe get stuck in the paladin's sword, and then the boosters on the axe turned on. But the sword didn't break, just the paladin's sword was damaged, and their weapons broke apart into tiny pieces that flew through the air. The Imperial Guard then pushed on the paladin's head, and it could be seen that there were boosters opening from his wrist even there. With this, he hit forward as fast as possible, leaving a gross cracking noise. The Imperial Guard looked down to make sure he had finished the job. The paladin's head was loose in his hand. However, the paladin was still moving his fingers just barely as he raised them upwards. The spear that was behind Luka on the ground started to glow brightly. Luka looked back at it and began to get nervous and sweaty. At that moment, he realized the Imperial Guard wouldn't know how fast and powerful that spear was, since he didn't see it before, and probably couldn't move out of the way in time. He then understands that it would be really bad if the Imperial Guard died because he would die too, so he had to do something to prevent this outcome. The spear started to wiggle around and then flew up out of the ground. Luka tried to stick his leg out to at least change the spear's path a little bit. But as his leg was going through the air, he really hoped it was enough to make the spear miss the Imperial Guard, as it flew straight for the Imperial Guard's head. The paladin grabbed the horn on the Imperial Guard's helmet and kept trying to pull the spear back to him. The Imperial Guard saw what was happening and put his fist in the air, ready to punch. He started to bring his fist down as hard as he could, hitting the paladin in the head and pushing him into the ground. Right then, there was a super big explosion, and pieces of stuff even landed near Luka, who was out of breath on the ground, wondering who survived. He thought that if the paladin lived, he had no way to escape and hoped that it was the Imperial Guard walking towards him. The footsteps stopped right near his head. Luka closed his eyes, waiting, and then he heard the Imperial Guard say, "Good job, trainee. They were able to beat the paladin because of you." Then, the Imperial Guard asked about the wound on his stomach. Luka said he got hurt when he tried to dodge the special blast of power. Then, the Imperial Guard mentioned that he would help him, and they could go back to base. When Luka looked up to grab his hand, he was super shocked to see that Legion, the mechanical armor the Empire gave to Imperial Guards to remove any weak body parts that weren't important for fighting, was an item that allowed a person to turn into the best weapon possible, something every trainee wanted. A Legion was a testament of an Imperial Guard, but what he was about to see was something he would not want. The guard had no head. He pointed out that he's still alive, but he doesn't have a brain. He asked the guard if he was a robot or a human. The guard stood up and requested for his brain, and his voice started to shake, and he asked if it was gone. Then he started screaming and grabbed the top of his head right away. After that, his body went completely limp and fell down, not moving at all. Luka looked up at the guard's body and said to himself that he had been trying to become a monster like this the whole time, and it's really cold, so his body won't stop shaking. He wondered if he would live through the stomach wound until someone came to help, and if this was the last thing he would see. He heard Ile ask if he was still alive, and Luka was happy to see him. Ile said he wasn't doing so well, and Luka asked about everyone else. Ile answered that beside them, everyone was dead. Ile then sat next to him, asking how his wounds were. Luka told him that he would probably die soon, and asked what the plan was. He told Ile to look ahead, saying that the life Ile had always wanted was right in front of him. However, Ile mentioned that they were heading towards Karid and Badian. Luka stated that what Ile wanted couldn't be found in the Empire, and that it would be okay with him if Ile left, as the reinforcements would come soon, and once they joined them, they would have to go back to the Empire. So he should leave now, if that was what he wanted. Ile put his hand on the knee and started to stand up. Luka looked over at him as he walked away. He said that Ile came from a background where he would be wealthy and famous, and everyone in the Empire would be jealous of him. However, he didn't understand what Ile wanted, but he did know that his eyes sparkled when he talked about being an archaeologist. He hoped that Ile lived the life he wanted with everything he had. Luka sat there, accepting that he would die. However, he felt something on his chest. When he opened his eyes, he saw Ile and asked him what he was doing. Ile said that seeing Luka act like that made him think he would actually die, and he wouldn't feel good if he died like this. Luka sighed and called him an idiot. Luka is looking at a comic book, but his eyes show no feeling. He seems to be wondering if his life is worth living this way. Ile asks if he's checking out new parts. Luka is surprised. It's not a comic book, but a book about machine parts. Ile suggests the F-24 model because it doesn't take long to get used to. He says Luka will be able to fight again sooner, and it's better than what he has now. Luka tells him to stop appearing suddenly like that. Andy laughs and asks if he startled him. After coming back to the Empire and finishing his treatment, Luka was called to different offices for questioning. They wanted to talk to him about the case where 3 young soldiers and 1 Imperial Guard member died. It was called the Paladin Incident. Luka thought they wanted to investigate that, but he was called for other reasons. Ellie asked if he had heard that they found a special object at the place they went to. Many people are arguing about who should own it. Luka says he now understands that the floating cube was the reason for everything. He asks Ile who is collecting it. Ile says he heard they are creating a team with only experts for these kinds of missions. If the Holy Alliance doesn't want to give up the historical site and object, a big war might start. The 2 empires will fight. If the Empire fights the Holy Empire, the Badian would benefit just by watching. That's why there are so many small battles where they can afford to lose. Luka says he doesn't care about politics. He just wants to follow orders and fight, because that's what Imperial Guard members are supposed to do. Then he thinks about the Imperial Guard soldier he saw. When he was reporting about a member who got his head blown off, Tinuan told him it was just an illusion caused by leftover signals. Luka wonders if that's true, but says no, because the dead soldier reacted to his words. And that wasn't an illusion. He still has many unanswered questions. However, he's not foolish enough to ask about information that headquarters won't reveal. Luka says there's a fancy place in the young soldiers' training area that doesn't fit in. It's the visiting room, made for young soldiers to meet with friends and family. Since he grew up in an orphanage, he thought he would never come here. So, he didn't expect anyone to be looking for him. But a white-haired woman named Lillian is sitting across from him. She's Claude's sister, and he wonders why she's here to see him. He wonders if she will ask him about Claude's death, since he was the leader at the time. Lillian tells him not to worry if he thinks she's here to hate him. When her brother joined the Imperial Guard, their family knew this could happen. She's here because her brother talked about him a lot and said he was very talented. She says he must know where she comes from, and she wants to skip the formal stuff because of that. He says it seems like she's interested in him, and she asks if he's against it. He says he doesn't know her, and she says they can get to know each other. He asks why him, and she asks if her dead brother asking her isn't a good enough reason. She believes he would benefit a lot from this, and many people would be jealous. Luka says he can't refuse this offer because someone like him getting the chance to marry a woman from such a good family is a great opportunity. He has worked hard to succeed in life. If he can marry a noble woman, it will help him get closer to his goal. There's nothing better than that. But this chance seems too easy, which is why he hesitates. He tells her he has to refuse. She looks surprised. He stands up from the table before she can ask questions and walks away. He says he used to think people from good families were foolish for trying to escape the empire, but he never thought he would be foolish enough to make a decision based on a feeling. He's sure Lillian will be insulted as a noble, and he hopes nothing bad happens because of this. She quickly reaches out and grabs his hand, stopping him. She says she was too fast and they should start by being friends. Her face turns red. He tries to tell her that's not what he meant, but she runs away, saying she will see him again soon. He looks at his hand and sweats, saying she will be hard to get rid of. Back in the training room, he's standing in front of a man who's looking down at him. The man laughs and says he never thought Luka would come to him. We meet the fighting instructor named Kinuan. Luka says he's here and wants to learn from him. Kinuan says he can't teach him anything about fighting because he's already skilled. He can only remember a few young soldiers who are more skilled. Luka says that means there are people stronger than him, and he's not happy with being the best among the young soldiers. Kinuan laughs and tells him not to rush. Luka explains that Kinuan is strong but not bossy like the other instructors. Unlike them, he uses a weak, everyday machine part. Luka compares it to a new machine part he just got, which should be 10 times stronger. His only disadvantage is that he doesn't have a full body of machine enhancements, so he's much weaker. If he can't beat someone like Kinuan, he won't stand a chance against someone as strong as the Paladin. He thanks Kinuan for this chance. Kinuan says he didn't give him a choice and tells him to start. Luka immediately charges in without thinking, but Kinuan blocks the punch. He asks if Luka wanted to test his new machine part. Luka doesn't answer. He says that Kinuan might be a retired Imperial Guard, but he knew he wouldn't even move when facing an attack like this. Luka keeps attacking as Kinuan blocks. Luka says he will jump on him to get closer and reaches out to quickly take advantage of the distance. He grabs Kinuan's coat, tightens his grip, turns his hand, and pulls Kinuan down with his left hand. He pulls back his right hand and punches forward, saying it's a sure win because Kinuan can't block it. Kinuan watches as the punch gets closer, and his eyes glow blue. Luka looks down at him, confused, wondering when he ended up in the air. He lands with his hands on the ground and says he won't let this stop him. He comes in with a kick. It looks like it hits Kinuan, but it was only centimeters from his face. Kinuan grabs Luka's foot and throws him into the air again, leaving him completely confused. This time, Luka doesn't try to catch himself and bounces on the ground. He sits there looking at Kinuan, wondering what's happening. Kinuan gets closer and says he not only failed to understand his opponent's strength, but he also let his mind wander during the fight. He asks him why he's in such a hurry. And with that, this chapter ends. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Support this channel by liking this video and subscribing the channel. And if you want me to recap another manhwa or manga, write its name on comment section. And if you want to know what happened in previous chapter, you can watch them in this YouTube channel.